Hi, we learned about SOHCAHTOA. Today we're going to focus on sine, cosine, and tangent in our flip book. We learned that SO is S-O-H, and it stands for sine of an angle is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. We looked at this example trying to find the sine ratios for each of the reference angles A and B. We're starting with sine A, so A is our reference angle, 12 is our opposite side, and 13 is our hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. So sine of A is your opposite, which is 12, over your hypotenuse, which is 13. Next we have sine of angle B, B is down here. We have our opposite now is 5, and our hypotenuse stays the same, so it would be 5 over 13. Next, we're going to take a look at the examples on finding angles and finding sides using sine. Finding angles, we have our reference angle x. We have 9 is opposite of our reference angle. 14 is our hypotenuse. The next step is to identify the trig function. So if we look at SOHCAHTOA, S-O-H, that means we have sine of angle x is equal to 9 over 14. The big thing to remember is we have to use the inverse when solving for angles. And we got to make sure we're in degree mode. So we're going to write that down too. Degree mode. Star that one. We come over here, we use the inverse, so it'd be sine with that little -1. That exponent tells us that we're using the inverse of sine, aka we're solving for an angle. And it comes up with parentheses, and you type in 9 divided by 14. You just type that in. I'll show you in Desmos what that looks like. Inverse sine, so we go to the little keyboard. We go over here to functions, and then you see inverse sine is the one with the little -1. You have 9 divided by 14. And that rounded to the nearest degree would be 40 degrees. The other thing that I'd like to point out is you have to click on the wrench in the upper right hand corner. And when you click on the wrench, then you can see if it has what mode you're in. If it's on radians, the radians will be clicked, and then you'll notice that my value changed from what it was earlier. So then I'm going to switch it back to degrees, and you'll notice that it goes back to that 40 degree angle. So moral of the story is make sure that you're in degree mode because it can affect your final answers when you're trying to solve with trig. Okay. Next, we're going to go down the column. We're going to look at example number 4. Example number 4, we have our reference angle x. 31 is our opposite side. 38 is our hypotenuse. SOHCAHTOA tells us it's opposite hypotenuse, so it's going to be sine of angle x is equal to 31 divided by 38. Because we're solving for the angle, we're going to be doing the inverse sine of 31 divided by 38. We plug that into the calculator. Inverse sine of 31 divided by 38, and it rounds to 55 degrees. 55 degrees. And then I don't write this one down, that was 40 degrees. Example number 5, we're going to be solving for sides this time. We still start with our reference angle, which in this case is 41. We still label our sides. X is opposite, 17 is our hypotenuse. We still use the trig functions SOHCAHTOA to figure out which one to use. Because it's opposite hypotenuse, it's sine. The reference angle is still always written after the trig function. And we have x over 17 because it's opposite over hypotenuse. We can put 1 underneath sine of 41 to make it a fraction. And that's a hint that we can cross multiply when we solve. So we have 17 times the sine of 41 is equal to x, and the number that you're multiplying with the trig function always comes in front of it. We plug that into our calculator and we can round that to the nearest decimal, nearest tenths place. So it'd be 17 times the sine of 41. And that would round to 11.2. And then finally we have example number 6. It's the last type of example that you'll see. There's really only 2 types of examples with solving sides. One with x in the numerator, and guess what? The other example is when we put x in the denominator. So let's take a look. We label our sides based off of our reference angle. So x is our hypotenuse, 29 is our opposite. SOHCAHTOA tells us to use sine. It'd be sine of 73 is equal to 29 over x. We then cross multiply like we did earlier. We have x times the sine of 73 is equal to 29. Because sine of 73 is one value, we would have to divide by sine of 73 so that we can get x by itself. So we would type in 29 divided by the sine of 73. 29 divided by sine of 73, which is 30.3 rounded to nearest tenths. So 30.3.